multitudes, bleeding the working class dry. The power overlords and their trusted gods are stacking the deck and holding the cards. They're building the machines and clearing the floor. They don't need your sweat or your hands anymore. The squeeze is alive, the trap has been set. They're turning the globe to a feudal state. The masses are starving and the anger is hot. They use a new weapon the old kings never got. Victor and Mick, Austin and Mort are waiting outside just to finish the sport. But the parasite goons keep them at the gate by sending out Ubi to alter your fate. It's a slow drip survival, a terminal dose to keep the new peasantry comfortably close. You don't own the land, you don't own a thing, just waiting on Friday for what Ubi will bring. The robots are humming, the jobs are all gone. The lords of the manor are claiming the dawn. They want you dependent, hooked on the line, swallowing the poison and calling it wine. Enter Ubi, riding a golden machine, the newest horseman that the world's ever seen. With a suitcase full of fiat, he's making it rain. The ultimate pusher, just numbing the pain. He's keeping the withdrawal of the masses at bay, taking your future by paying your way. Don't call him a hero and don't buy what he sells. He's the velvet rope on a neo-feudal cell. It looks like a rescue, it feels like relief, but Ubi's just a phantom, a well-dressed thief. If the fiat stops flowing, the engine goes cold, and the other four riders will do what they're told. It's a hostage situation dressed up as a gift, a deliberate drop in the societal shift. The pusher of the peace. You be, the parasites release. The parasites laugh while the peasantry begs. Don't drink from the cup, it's down to the dregs. See him for what he is, the horseman of the end. He isn't your savior, he isn't your friend.
Hello, my name is Tony Berard, and we are going to discuss the new science I developed. Science isn't something that just happens in a vacuum. People throughout the ages have, made contributions to science, and it goes into the world's repository of knowledge. So I have something to add. All right, so I'm going to give you the backdrop of my new science. It's called Kinematic Econometrics, KE for short. All right, so we have this, I have this thing on the screen here. This is a text file. So we're going to discuss Vilfredo Pareto. So Control C, and we're going to go to the internet, and we'll all right, so this takes us into Wikipedia. This is Vilfredo Pareto in the 1870s. So you can see that he's no longer alive. He studied economic inequality. So let's see. Political science. Income distribution. This is what I wanted to. So this isn't really Pareto's measures. This is just a standard page on income distributions. It doesn't show you a whole lot, I guess. So that's partly what my job is going to be, is to really emphasize how inequality it is. This almost looks like a regular bell curve the way they're showing it. Well, that's kind of interesting. I'm just looking at this for the first time. I didn't scroll down before. This is bimodal. So this almost looks like a bell curve with a tail on this end in the 1800s. Then by 1975, there was a big wealth disgorgement, and you'll see that when we get to my graphs. I'll show it to you. And then we lost our bimodalness. Well, I don't know. Is it in there? It's hard to tell. So, but anyway, if you want to jump into this, it's the income distribution article on Wikipedia. So let's cancel out of that and look at income inequality next, or economic inequality. So Control C. Okay, so I just did the income distribution. Now we're going to look at income inequality. So we'll put that in the search engine. And we get to this one. The red areas are high income inequality. It shows that the US is like kind of far down the scale. That's not true. That is not true. We will find that out shortly. We're probably not red, but we're probably light red here. This one here is probably where the US is at. So, now, what is this? I didn't look at this before. Countries by total wealth. Well, the US is the #1 economy, so it would be the darkest, I guess. And the citizens do not get this economy. It goes to the wealthy. We'll see that in a moment, probably next. All right, so we'll shut this down. So this is structural demographic theory. Let's look at that. This is a branch of economics that is prior to mine. Control C, and then we'll go to the internet. Excuse me. And we'll do Control V. And look at that. Okay, another Wikipedia article. So this is Peter Turchin. We're going to talk about him in a minute. This theory was developed by him. It uses mathematical modeling to explain and predict outbreaks of political instability in complex societies. So it originated in the work of sociologist Jack Goldstone. Oh, I never heard of him. Might have to look him up. And has recently been developed further by quantitative historians Peter Turchin, Andrei Korotayev, Leonid Grinin, and Sergei Nefedov. Oh, there's a picture of Sergei Nefedov. Not really, but sort of. So, well, we're going to talk about Peter Turchin here. So, he is the one that I see. I see his work in my work. So, all right, let's move on. So that's structural demographic theory. It uses mathematical modeling. All right, so we're going to look at Peter Turchin next. Control C. We'll go back to the internet. Control V. Enter. So this is the Wikipedia page for Peter Turchin. He's an emeritus professor at the University of Connecticut in the departments of ecology and evolutionary biology and mathematics. Oh. Well, he wrote he has studied wealth inequality in economics. His books are down here. So this is on Wikipedia, so you can check it out. It's on Wikipedia. It's under the Peter Turchin article, and you can see all his books. I'm going to talk about one of them in a moment. All right, so let's exit out of here. So this is in the Wikipedia article on what elite overproduction is. Elite overproduction is a concept developed by Peter Turchin that describes the condition of a society that has an excess supply of potential elite members relative to its ability to absorb them into the power structure. This, he hypothesizes, is a cause for social instability as those left out of power feel aggrieved by their relatively low socioeconomic status. So that's elite overproduction. And I see this in my graphs. So we'll get to that in just a moment. All right, next we're going to look at the main Peter Turchin book. Control C. And we'll go back to the internet. Control V. Enter. So this is Amazon. It has his Peter Turchin's book called The End Times. You can see Peter Turchin right there. So the name of his book is End Times: Elites, Counter-Elites, and the Path of Political Disintegration. So you can follow him on Amazon if you want. He has quite a few books. But what did I want to quote here? That was something. Well, mainly Peter Turchin is, he shows us that the wealth pumps, you know, once it pumps down to a certain amount, then they fight over it. And that's the elite, or the count. It's elite overproduction. So, all right. So you can get his book. So I do promote other people. I don't just promote me. He knows what he's talking about. All right. So I covered his book on end times. So the next person we're going to talk about is Walter Scheidel. What happens when the political system disintegrates? Well, that's what Walter Scheidel talks about. So let's go back to the internet. Control V. Enter. And we get Walter Scheidel's Wikipedia page. And so Walter Scheidel wrote a book called The Great Leveler, right here. The Great Leveler was shortlisted for the Cunhill History Prize in 2017 and for the Financial Times and McKinsey Business Book of the Year 2017. One of the Economist Book of the Year 2017. It was selected by Martin Wolf as his Financial Times Summer Book of 2017. This guy, William Easterly, wrote a review of The Great Leveler, which argues that violence is the main contributor to declines in inequality. That's not increases in inequality, that's declines in inequality. That the great virtue of the book is to present a lot of evidence on both sides for the readers to judge the thesis for themselves. Well, I concur with the thesis, as we will see. All right, and you can get this book on Amazon. Let's see. Control C. And back to the internet. Control V. So this is on Amazon. This is Walter Scheidel's book called The Great Leveler. And it has a rating of 4.3. He's telling you what happens. I mean, that should be worth a 5. He's telling you what happens. Wealth disgorgement of the elite really only happens through violence. It's sad, but unbelievably true. All right. And then on the book description quote, it says, how only violence and catastrophes have consistently reduced inequality throughout world history. All right, so there's the introduction, the backstory to my new science called Kinematic Econometrics. So the next thing I'm going to show you is the wealth. Let me see. All right, I think that shows pretty good. Oh, I think I can make it bigger. Losing slight amount. I guess I can pan it. All right. Oh, it doesn't show all of it. Well, anyway. All right. So I got my big hand here. I guess we'll use the tip of the index finger to show what I'm talking about here. So this goes from 1776, the founding of our country, up to 2026, which is today. So, and this shows, I've labeled the bands T0 to T6. I'm using the idea of 6 degrees of separation. So this is the tip of the finger here. This dark green band is the bottom 20% of the population. And this is how much wealth they have as a percent. So this is a Pareto band. Remember Pareto? That's why I talked about him. If you have a fraction A over B, the A is the percent of the wealth, and B is the percent of the people holding it. The 80-20 rule comes from him, from his power law. He saw that 80%, back in his day, he saw 80% of the wealth was held by 20% of the population. That's not what's happening today. And so they talk about the 80-20 rule. Well, it's not a rule. Those are variables. And you can see it's changing. 20% of the population. So this top dark red band is the top 0.1%. You can see it here, 0.1%. Let me zoom in on that some more. I'll go back to the chart in a minute. So the tip of the finger here is tip of the index finger. So the T0 pump controllers, top 0.1%. T1 is the immune system. That's the next 0.9%. So the dark red band is the pump controllers. That's the top 0.1%. That's how much of the wealth they have. Compare that with the little thin green band of 20% of the people. 0.1% has this much, 20% has this much. The next band is 0.9%. So you've heard of the 1%, of the wealth, of the top wealthy people. Look how much the 0.1 and the 0.9 have together. This band, this large area, is held by 1%. This is how much wealth they have of the pie. This is done as a percent, not as GDP, because GDP grows every year. This is percent, so it fixes it, so you can see how much they have over time. So, this dark red band and this red band is 1%. The next is the T2s. This is the direct beneficiaries of the pump. That's the next 4%. So 0.1 plus 9 is 1, plus 4 is 5. So these three bands make up 5% of the population. And look how much wealth they hold. If the slope goes down, that means they're taking wealth from the masses. If the slope goes up, that means they're losing wealth from the masses. So these top three bands, you can see from 1776 up until just before the Civil War, the top 0.1% was gaining some wealth, but not too much. It's a slight decline. The bigger inroads was made by the 0.9%. That's a steeper slope. So this is a more shallow slope. That's a steeper slope. And then to complete the top 5%, look how steep that's going. That's cutting deeply down into the bottom 95%. Then, so this is the wealth pumps that Peter Turchin is talking about. He doesn't have metrics like I have to show it in as detail as this, but this is zoom out a little bit. So I have the full graph here. Block and mail. I guess that's the edge of it. There. All right. Yeah, this isn't as smooth as it could be, but I'm telling you some really big bar item stuff here. All right, so here's the wealth pumps. Tip of the index finger. That's the 0.1%. This is the 0.9%. So between the two, that's a pretty steep slope. And look how thick the band is here for the bottom 20%. And look how thick this is. It goes from this thickness to this thickness. That's ridiculous. That's far wider than what this is. And this is 20% of the population. This is 1% of the population. This is 5% of the population. You can see the 50% mark is right about here. The top 5% has far more than 50% of the wealth. And that smashes these lower bands. Even the lower bands here. That's taking money. That's taking money. And it's just terrible. So these are the wealth pumps. Now you can see the elite overproduction here. When they're competing, they're really draining the masses because they're fighting over the pump. And it shows a much steeper decline. And then look at the cut of the yellow. The top 5% right here, this is where the Civil War ended. So during the Civil War, it caused a massive elite overproduction during the war. And the pinch point here on the lowest quintile was just astounding. And then that's the end of Peter Turchin. The wealth pump, and then the elite overproduction. Then there's a disgorgement of wealth. This is where the wealth loses from the top. This is the Walter Scheidel's horsemen, the great leveler, the catastrophic events. This would be the Red Rider war. You know, the four horsemen of the apocalypse. He uses the four horsemen to denote his levelers. So you could see that the orange-red boundary here, they really got a lot of wealth during the war, but then after the war it disgorged. After the war it disgorged. It disgorged. And this disgorged a little bit too. But then, looking at about 1903, somewhere in there, the pumps got turned back on. This is nearly level. And you can see the corner point. I mean, there, and then it's level. So it goes up, and then it's level. I mean, it's almost like a switch. Goes up and then it's level. Goes up and then it decreases. Well, that's not level. This one's not level. It decreases. So it goes up, the pump turns on, and it decreases, and the pump is pumping. Goes up, and then pumping. So this is 1913 is about World War One, and it hardly made an effect on the wealth distribution. Well, I think this is total wealth. Maybe nominal wealth. Maybe nominal wealth. There's actually 3 different metrics. So this chart was produced before I knew as much as I know now. But you can still see the overall trends. You can see the wealth pump, the elite overproduction, the disgorgement, which is Scheidel's horsemen. Then you can see the pumps turn back on. That's Turchin. Elite overproduction, that's Turchin. And then the wealth disgorgement, the horsemen, that's Scheidel. And then there's they turn the pumps on slightly from the disgorgement to slow down the disgorgement, but the wealth is still getting disgorged here. And then the pumps are turned back on until we get to today. And so look how far down this is. This is 95% of the population. And look at the tip of this finger and track it across to the tip here. They're nearly the same height. So, and you can see a slight little bump here from 2008. Remember all that, the big banks too big to fail, and all those massive government bailouts, 500 million or billion, I think, 500 billion to this company, 300 billion to that one. You can see a slight little dip here, but this is only one of the 3 metrics. You could see it better in some other graphs. So my main point here is that this is nearly the same height as just before the Civil War. All right. The next thing I'll show you is this one. This is the 3 metrics. Remember me talking a moment ago about there's actually 3 metrics? This is the fiat disgorgement that has been going on since about 1980. Let me see if I can zoom in on this graph. Okay. So you can see historically from 1776, this is 1776, and this is every year data point. There's no data point missed. Every year has a data point. And so, but my scale is only going for, every 10 years it looks like. 1795, 1805, 1815, and so on every 10 years until we get to 2025. But I have 2026's data point also. And so you could see historically that all 3 metrics tracked. And you can see this is the amount of, this is 80% of the wealth held by X% of the population. And so this is the percent of the wealth. So this is the year, and this is the amount of, this is the percent of the people that hold the wealth. And so you can see the percents are shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. So it's not an 80-20 rule. This top is maybe, 17.85, 18, 19, 20. It's about up to here maybe. So it's a little slightly above where the thing is. And so the 80-20 rule was almost true at the start of the country. But then the wealth concentrated and the wealth concentrated and the wealth concentrated. And you can, that's the pumps turning on. And then here's the elite overproduction. So, and then here's the disgorgement right after the Civil War. And then the pumps got turned back on. And then this is right before World War I. World War I happened about here. And World War I didn't have any effect. It kept dropping and kept dropping until the stock market crashed. That's when there was a disgorgement of wealth. Up until about here. This was about 1945, 46. That would have been the New Deal. And the New Deal enabled, no, the New Deal was here, I think, right after the stock market crash. So look how much the percent of the wealthy population holding 80%. It really went up, which was good. That means the masses had more money. And then it's tapering off a little bit, but still increasing until we get to 1965, 63, somewhere in there. And then it's going down until we get to 1980. So here's where the wealth pumps got turned back on, and then the number of people holding 80% of the wealth is dropping down. And then the true wealth is coming down. Well, I have a zoom in of this. So from 1980 to 2026, I'm going to go to a new graph. It's going to be a blow up of this, because this is the part I really want to show you. So one moment while I get that. That's this one. All right. So Connie is a short for con man, so I gave it a female name. So Connie enters here. You can see there's a split in the track of the yellow versus the blue and the purple. So this is the first time in history that my three metrics, this is actually the Barrar-Gemini metric. Me and Gemini, we have a lot of conversations and battle over things, and we each see things. You know, I'm smarter than AI sometimes, but sometimes it's smarter than me. And so we battle it out, and we realize certain things together. So there's actually three Barrar-Gemini metrics. And so this is the true wealth, this yellow line. And so the amount of people holding the true wealth is dropping and dropping and dropping, and then it flattens out right here. We're going to talk about that in a moment. For 5 straight years, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's gotten to 2.4% and holding steady. Why is that? That's important. The blue line is the effective wealth. I think that's what the color band charts were. The effective wealth. Or it could have been UB2. I know it's not this one. It's one of these two. I'm still kind of developing this science, so. But I have enough here to show you. This is the fiat pacification. UB is a name I gave for UBI. The fiat wealth disgorgement, the government gets to print money, and they allow credit card companies to create credit out of thin air without having it backed by gold at Fort Knox. I think that's where the U.S. gold is. And so fiat money is just printed money by the government. And so, but it's not backed by anything. And so they throw that out into the masses. And if you listen to orthodox economists, they say, look, all boats are rising. As you'll see from other metrics I have, that's not true. All boats are not rising. This is the fiat pacification. And then this blue line is the traditional metric that I did a paper on called the asymptote of ruin. And the countries never made it past 3. And right now, this last data point is 3.2 for the USA. So the world record holder is 3.0 for Great Britain, United Kingdom, in 1913. So they went into war, World War I, and there was wealth disgorged. So that number went up finally. So the elite can't seem to hold the wealth below that. The society snaps and the wealth gets disgorged. So, but right now, the U.S. has a new game in town. All historically, remember all that? These three bands were tied together. In 1980, due to modern financialization and the laws that they passed to, do certain things legally, that allows them to steal money. This is the true wealth, and this is the printed dollars. So the standard economic thing, the orthodox theory that they talk about, is that all boats are rising. No, that's just printed money. The real wealth, the assets, and the tangible goods and things like that, this is getting smaller and smaller until it flatlined. So, and this is the effect of wealth. All right, next, what will we talk about? Let's talk about the pressure graphs. So this is a pressure graph of the United States. Okay, I guess I need to explain a few things. This line here is called the Leviathan limit. I guess I need to show you another thing. This will be a book that I'm going to write at some point. I think I have it in here. Yes. So at some point this will be my book. I'll turn it over here so you can see the title. So Kinematic Econometrics, that's the name of the new science, and Leviathan and the Four Horsemen of Collapse. There's actually two Leviathans in the Bible. One in Job, I think, in the Old Testament, and there's one in Revelation. So Thomas Hobbes uses the Leviathan from the Old Testament, meaning that the state is good, its power cannot be surpassed, and it acts as a good, benevolent king, so to speak, servicing the people. The the Leviathan in Revelation is terrible. That's when the state turns on the people and the social contract is violated. And so that's when, like the Prince, Machiavelli's Prince, that's a cannibalistic style of governing. You do in your opponents before they can do you in. So these are Scheidel's four horsemen. That's conquest. I call him Victor for victory. This is the Red Rider. So this is the White Rider, conquest. The Red Rider is war. And I call him Mick for military industrial complex. This is the Black Rider. He rides the black horse, and that's Austin for austerity. And this is the Grim Reaper, death. He rides the pale horse. And in Revelation, he has Hades follow him. So this is like all the souls. So I've incorporated, a lot of previous people. Thomas Hobbes with the social contract. Here's Scheidel's horsemen. And I've incorporated Turchin's wealth pumps, but I don't have them personalized. So, but anyway, this is the new book that'll come out at some point. So now you know about the Leviathan. So now I can go back to this other graph. Turn this off. Which one was it? Oh, it was the pressure graph. That's this one. All right. So the Leviathan limit is the two Leviathans. If you're down here in the pressure, that's lower pressure. That means the state is acting good on your behalf, and they're following the social contract and allowing the wealth to be harmoniously distributed to the bottom bands. This is the dark green band. And so notice how you can see a much better resolution of what's happening to the dark green band. If you look at the dark green band here, it just looks like a tiny sliver. You can hardly tell any activity on it. So the pressure bands is my new measurement that helps measure how much pressure is on the bands. And so this is the bottom 20% of the population. And the social contract at the very beginning of America was bad. 1776, the bottom quintile, it was above the Leviathan limit, so they weren't treating the bottom quintile very well at the start. But it went down below here, and this is due to the westward expansion. It was free land, you know. It really wasn't free. I need to do some analysis on what happened to Mexico and the Indians that were already here. We wiped them out. Our gain, this lowering of pressure, came at the cost of really smacking down the Indians in Mexico. So our pressure benefit was their pressure worsening. All right, and then you can see the pressure reached the lowest point here in about 1830, and then something happened. The pressure pump got turned on, or the wealth pump, and you can really see the effects of the wealth pumps. It's not just straight lines, you know. This really measures it nicely. And then right here, 1861 was the Civil War, and it really smacked down the bottom quintile, and it hit the immiseration limit. What is the immiseration limit? That is, how much time am I? I'm at 40 minutes already. I'll try to speed this along. The immiseration limit, but I'm saying a lot here, my goodness. The immiseration limit is pressure equals force over area in kinematics, but in the new kinematic econometrics, we modify that to the Maslow's survival force. That's F over the A. A is the area of money that they're being given. And so we use the surplus percent of money. So it's the amount of their population force right here divided by the surplus income that they have. And so that's force. It takes a certain amount of biological force to sustain them. They need food, housing, you know, and that takes a certain amount of requirements to sustain them, just for them to live. And then we divide that by the amount of money that they have. And so that's measuring the pressure. So you can see the pressure decreasing due to the westward expansion. Other things, probably conquerings of Mexico parts, annexing of Texas and all that stuff. So that reduced the pressure on our population. But then once the westward expansion got done, then the pressure pumps started siphoning the wealth off of them until we got to the Civil War, and then they really spiked badly. Then there was a big wealth disgorgement here. This is the panic of 1893. The stock market had a dippity-doo. And so this is the stock market crash. So this was a stock market panic. This was a stock market crash. So you can see the pressure on the two major events was the Civil War and the stock market crash. That caused a great pressure decrease. This is Walter Scheidel's horsemen, leveling the money, where the pressure on the bottom quintile really decreased and the pressure here after the stock market crash really decreased. And so These are the forces at play in the United States. The pressure still decreased up until about 1965, as we saw in the other graph, and has been increasing ever since. The wealth pumps have been turned back on, and it's just been a real shit show ever since. And you can see the pressure on the bottom quintile is higher right now than it was before the Civil War. So this is the improvement in my measurements. Using the actionable income share, you can. This is the best metric I have, and this is a derived metric that actually Gemini came up with. I didn't think of this. I was using interpolation of the Pareto bands, but that wasn't getting it down to the level of detail needed. And so this actionable income share is a real boost. And so it really shows this in great detail. So the bottom quintile has more pressure. Actually, it has more pressure before the stock market crash. The stock market crashed at the immiseration limit of the bottom quintile. And the stock right here is the immiseration limit, or the Leviathan limit. The Civil War broke out right there. So this Leviathan limit is really important. And we are above the Leviathan limit today. How are we able to do that? Well, that's the new measurements that I'm showing you. That's here. Come on. That's here. They're able to steal this money, and then there's this bottoming out of the percent. We'll get to that in a second. They are now, this is the new thing that's stopping the horsemen from coming. They're injecting money into us. And why does the U.S. get away with this? It's because we are the global currency. If we weren't the global currency, then we wouldn't be able to get away with this. Other countries like Brazil and Russia in the past have tried to inject fiat pacifications to their populace, and it didn't work. Well, they weren't the global currency. So the U.S. has a great privilege in that we're not crashing right now. But as you can see, we do have more pressure than we did before the stock market crash and before the Civil War. All right. What are we going to show now? Let me show this. All right, this was, I came up with a hypothesis from this corner point. The CARES Act was passed in 1921. And you could see the increase and then the sharp decrease. So I thought that was a systemic redirect. They talk about trickle-down economics, and all boats rise. This graph shows that that's not true. This is 95% of the population. This is the bottom quintile. These are different colors because I did this in Google Docs. This is the dark green band. This would be the light green band in the other chart. And then the light blue band, this red band. And then this blue band would be the light blue band to match them up from before, although there was a switch here. So these two bands are close enough to where they can trade places sometimes, I guess, as to how much pressure they're feeling. Okay, so this was this is the actionable income. Yes, this is not the pressure, because the pressure is not decreasing, the pressure is increasing. This is the actionable income that they actually have, the surplus. And so their wealth is decreasing and decreasing and decreasing. And this is the last 5 years. And I'm like, well, how can we reconcile this flattening out with the pressure that we're seeing? And that's answered with this graph, this corner point. So the amount of surplus that they're getting is decreasing. The initial rise was due to the surge that they got from the fiat, the printed money, but then it started getting eaten immediately by the upper bands. And I told Gemini this. I'm like, look at that corner point. That's got to be a data point. That's showing something. And it didn't think so. And so I asked it to, well, we don't know. We thought that the actionable income surplus only applied to the lower bands, but it actually applies to the upper bands too. I think it's this one. Yes, this is the upper bands. They're increasing so rapidly that it smashed these lower bands down. As you can see that this corner point, and they were decreasing here, is smashed so flat because the scale is so much higher. These are the T2s. They're getting benefit greatly. These are the T1s and these are the T0s. These are the apex predators. And so for them to hold their 2.4% flat line, they're taking from the population. So this is trickle-down siphoning. They're benefiting at our expense. We have 95% of the population and our wealth is going down. This is 5% of the population. 4%, 0.9%, 0.1%. And they are all going up, and that's due to the CARES Act and other acts they've done to manipulate the political landscape. Oh, I think you can still see it all. So I don't have to do that again. All right. So that was basically what I wanted to show you. Did I get all of these graphs? Yeah, this is the actionable income surplus. You can see the tremendous decreases from 1980 on. This is the theft. But this goes all the way back to 1776. So our income goes up. That was due to the westward expansion and stuff. And then we get the Civil War and we lose income. Then we gain income a little bit. This was, where's 1893? Right about here. So we're still losing money. But then there's like a disgorgement here around 1900 or so. And then it goes down 1920. So here's the stock market crash. And then all the New Deal stuff up until this is 1963. 1980 is about the peak that we got. 1970, 1980, somewhere in there. That was our peak. And then it's been just trash ever since. The wealth pumps have been turned back on and they've been sucking us dry. So that's the full history of the bottom 95%. But now you can see the top. Or no, not that one. This is the top 3 bands where they're just gaining money like gangbusters at our expense. So that was basically what I wanted to show you. Trickle-down economics is false. It is trickle-down siphoning. They are, they can't have less than 2.4% because of the elite overproduction in the, Turchin's, the counter elites. there's only but so many political spots that can hold the levers to the wealth pumps, and so for them to hold their to keep the wealth pumps turned on and to hold the other ones at bay, the other T2s, then they have to they can't cannibalize themselves more than that. They can't get it all the way down to just one person having all the wealth, because the whole world would turn on that one person. So 2.4% is the least amount of people that they can have controlling the wealth against the other, what is that, 97.6% of the people. Why do they get to control all of that wealth? That is phenomenally unfair. I want to leave you with one thought. Let me find it. It's Norway. Might be in here. There are countries out there that do right by their people. I need a moment to find it. Not seeing it. I wanted to find Norway's graph, but I don't see it here. I thought I had it in here. Well, let me show you India's. I'll find Norway in a moment. This pressure decline here was due to starvation. The Maslow survival floor. I thought that the percentage of people was fixed. Nope. They died. Starvation. The colonialism of Great Britain kept the train tracks full of wheat and grain and stuff going to England, and the peasants in India couldn't afford to even pay for their own grains, so they got exported out to Great Britain. Their pressure graphs increased, India's graphs decreased. Florence Nightingale did some analysis, statistical analysis, showing that Great Britain, calling it droughts and stuff, no, this was colonialism. Death is what they brought to India. So I'll show you that. I need to find Norway. I don't know why I can't see Norway. I must have it in, let me go to my Cliometric folder. Here. It's probably in here then. Darn it. Is it in here? Oh, let me show you this. This is, I'll just have to tell you Norway because I can't find it. All right, this is at $7 an hour in 1950, 45, whatever. If the minimum wage kept track with inflation, minimum wage should be $25.52 an hour. That's in 2023. This is 3 years later. So we're probably talking $30 an hour. And they're trying to get $15 an hour and they can't get it passed. Right now our minimum wage is $7.25, at least in 2023. I think it's gone up to maybe $8 or something now. But it's just terrible. We should be making 4 times that. This is the wealth pumps, stagnating wages. Then the work they do, the production increases go to them. I'm really bummed out that I can't find, used pressure graphs. It might be in here. This is Norway. Yes, I found it. I found it for you. So Norway did have some pressure increases on the masses before 1880, but then their government got right, and they were fixing the problems for the people. This is the invasion of Germany, so you can see that it really affected them. But their policies they've been decreasing the pressure on the masses. In 1969, here they kicked their billionaires out because they were going to tax them 78% on the oil reserves that were there. And the billionaires didn't want to pay that high tax, so they fled the country, immigrated, whatever, to leave Norway. And so Norway lost their parasites, which was good. And now look at the continual decrease, the pressure on the masses. This is awesome, and there's hardly any difference. Why can't the United States be like that? This is called caring for your people. The immiseration limit, they don't have the wealth pumps. They have a sovereign fund. If something happens, then they're able to release that to the masses, taking care of their bottom 95%. This is called caring for your people. Can it happen? Yes, it absolutely can. If you look at happiness indexes and stuff like that, Norway ranks among the happiest people in the world. It's because their government is taking care of them. That's awesome. So that was my example of to the good. So anyway, please smash the like button. Share this video. I'm telling you stuff. I've advanced science on economics, and I'm able to show you, where the money's going, the wealth pumps and stuff like that, the horsemen. So the only way to really claw back without violence is to join a union, unless you have a government like Norway that's looking after you. Otherwise, you can't claw back the money except through violent revolution. So it's just terrible. All right, like and share and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much.